Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddler Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today we've got a hot one for you. We've got a Burns-centric episode, so I hope your co-host over here has been warming up his voice. We're talking about a Hunka Burns in Love. And of course, that co-host I mentioned is not just any co-host. He is your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
I am good, Miles. I am good. I don't know why. I feel like I needed a longer weekend this weekend. I'm sure you're feeling the same. And it's like, we're going to record this episode, maybe play some Evil Dead. And then it's like the week starting again, man. And it's a little upsetting tonight. But you know what's going to cure that? Some Simpsons.
Evil Dead?
Oh, I was going to say some Simpsons first, but maybe that too. So Miles just admitted we have to begrudgingly get through this.
No, man, I'm excited to talk about this episode.
I thought this one had some fun moments in it for sure. So I'm looking forward to talking about it. So I guess I should throw it back to you so we can get started. The man, the myth, he's very disappointing. It is Miles.
Dude, I think what you're getting is I am just very disappointed because, like, literally as we were about to hit record just now, my fucking headset's broke, and I'm kind of sad. I really like those headphones. And I was looking at them, like, I'm going to have, like, a real struggle to even figure out what brand these are. Because, okay, I found it. Never mind. We're good. It says it on there. One audio, not audio. I was like, I just kept finding their symbol, and I'm like, no one knows what this symbol is. You're not that mainstream of a brand. We bought you on discount.
I'm pretty sure the headset that I use is the pair you gave me when you got the ones you currently have. If I'm not mistaken,
it's the exact same pair. Yeah, I got a deal where I got two of them for like basically it was like I could get one pair. Like I'm gonna make up these numbers, but let's say I could get one pair for 25 and I could get two pairs for 30. So I'm like, well, obviously I'll just get a second one and give one to you.
And they're gonna last a lifetime. Oh crap!
I should see if these things are under warranty. I do think I use mine quite a bit more than you.
You do,
just from the fact that I'm pretty sure you only wear these during the hour that we do this.
Hey, I've recorded like another podcast twice.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, you have been a guest now on a couple of podcasts, so that's
BDD
cool.
plus two.
Camp/Horrorcast, which is on Mondays, which it's always a good time when you're on that one. Actually, they were talking about doing a pop-up tonight, and if they did, I was going to have you try to quickly watch Black Phone so you could join us, but everybody balked on it. So, but you should just watch that movie because it's good, and it's now streaming, I think, on Paramount Plus.
It came through on my Plex account too. So
nice, dude. Nice. I'm just going to drop this because it'll be a fun way to sneak it onto this podcast. When I auditioned for Survivor on Friday, I got a 3-month subscription to Paramount Plus. So I was going to give that to you because I'm already a subscriber.
Oh, nice. That way I can get up to date on South Park. But we're not here to talk about Black Phone and South Park. Wait, are we?
What's that?
I said, wait, are we here to talk about those? Black Phone and South Park?
We could be. I was trying to tee up to get you to talk to me about Survivor, but we already have an entire podcast dedicated to that, so I get it. It's fine. It's no big deal. No big deal. Actually, so we brought it up too. I've had a really weird weekend because I auditioned for Survivor on Friday, and then I auditioned for Evil Dead the musical on Saturday. So I'm like basically gotten to a point where comedy isn't enough, and now I want to be a triple threat failure.
I mean, I know like getting on Survivor would be like the biggest deal ever, but I'm more excited for the Evil Dead musical thing. Like I want you to get that.
I hope I get it too. And honestly, I don't usually, this is way out of my comfort zone. So like, I guess I don't really have like a good odometer or anything or barometer, to like, to guide me. But like, I feel really good about both auditions, frankly. Like, I feel like I kind of nailed it on both. And, one of the cool things was I was kind of worried because I was like preparing to sing one of the Evil Dead songs for my audition. And, you know, you've heard me sing on this show. I'm not a great singer, but I am enthusiastic. But I was preparing for a Evil Dead song. And when I got there, they asked me what my favorite, like I told them like my only music experiences with karaoke. And they asked me what my favorite karaoke song was. And I told them it's Teenage Dirtbag by Wheatus, which is like my go-to. And I actually got to audition with that song. And I can wail on that song, dude. That song is uniquely in my voice range so that I can actually pull that one off. and they didn't get to like see me having to stretch on the perimeters of that range, which is very, very small.
Honestly, I feel like everything's lining up for you to be a deadite of some kind, because Teenage Dirtbag is a good song to sing, to get your vocals out there, to be some kind of monster, I feel like. So
I'm just going to be the boyfriend from Teenage Dirtbag that pops up in Evil Dead the Musical.
I want him to give you like a fat suit and prosthetics and make you Henrietta. Let's go. I think you could pull it off.
Well, in that one, Henrietta isn't really an option, but there's a good number of characters that do in fact end up being deadites. So you're not far. Like if I do get cast, that is definitely a possibility. Henrietta, not so much. This is community theater after all.
Well, I know you'll blast it on social media when you get the part, and then we'll have to
man.
The show.
Yeah, hopefully if it happens, we can get a group together and it'll be a good time. But anyway,
Camp/Horror should review your performance.
Oh, dude, that would be tight. Actually, I'm going to pitch that. That's a really good idea. And everybody else here that likes our show and also likes horror movies should check out Camp/Horrorcast. A couple episodes with Richie. What, you were on No Malone, and then what was the other one you were on?
Repo the Genetic Opera.
The one you picked, yeah, which I actually ended up liking more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, I think I liked it less than everybody else. It's okay. Everyone else seemed to love it.
That happens sometimes with our picks. I think like we build them up too much in our head. But I didn't build up this episode too much in my head because once again, we're on the season that I didn't really watch until I was already in college, living with Richie actually at this time. But this is an episode that it's a Burns heavy episode, and going into that, that's all I really remembered about it. And it pretty much delivered, I would say. I mean, we're definitely going to break it down, but Hunka Hunka Burns in Love originally aired on December 2nd in the year 2001. It has the chalkboard gag, fun does not have a size, and it's a repeat couch gag, but it's a good one where we see it's like a prison break sequence, and you literally see like little mounds of dirt moving up to the couch. This one does mention that the title is based on a line in the song Burning Love by Dennis Lindy, which was performed by Elvis Presley in 1972.
And was my mistaken, was this a Schwartzwelder episode?
This was, in fact, a Schwartzwelder episode, and I'm glad you brought him up because the commentary featured Mike Scully, Al Jean, Ian Maxstone Graham, Matt Selman, Tom Gamble, Max Cross, and the director Lance Kramer. And those gentlemen all mentioned that it was written by Schwartzwelder, who was not there.
I don't know. Like, I felt like this episode just kind of had that feel to it a little bit. It was zany in the right amount, if that makes sense.
The one that like a lot of like the staff or the commentary track like talked about is like specifically like when Homer has the pie. I think they all agree that John Swartzwelder lives in a universe where there is not a single windowsill in America that does not have a fresh, hot, like steaming pie sitting on it for comedic, just waiting for comedic, value,
opportunity.
Yeah,
exactly. I love that moment in that episode too. And I also mean that because Burns is less Burns in this episode, and like I know we'll get to it at the end. I love the ending of this episode where he's just walking off in the sunset with the Simpsons and they're just bantering. Like
that's like I love that ending both in like how it's written and also visually. It's beautiful as they're like walking into the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
I agree entirely.
It had a very good buddy feel with the family and Burns.
We're definitely going to talk more about Burns' differences in this episode because that was actually quite the nightmare for Lance Kramer. But we will get into some more of that. Before we do, right off the bat in the commentary, Al Jean talked about how excited he was to get to work with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who was on the hit show Seinfeld at the time. And according to IMDb, by the way, as of the most recent season, as of last season, which was season 32, they just haven't updated it because she still hasn't been on this season. But basically, the point is she's the only of the main cast members from the sitcom Seinfeld to make a guest appearance on Seinfeld. Interestingly enough,
you mean on The Simpsons?
Say again?
You mean on The Simpsons?
Yes, sorry, I messed that up. Yeah.
Interestingly enough,
Tom Gamble, Max Cross, and Lance Kramer actually all worked with her because they all worked on Seinfeld before they worked on The Simpsons.
Interesting. Funny how those little tight groups stay together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot. Al Jean did mention too that one of the things he loved most about working with Julia Louis-Dreyfus is that he would give her like an idea, or like basically have her like kind of play with a line or something like that, and she would always every time give at least 3, sometimes 4 or 5 very different, all usable, all funny, different reads on the same line, and it just really demonstrated how much of a professional she was and how much range she had, and how she was willing to like kind of put her ego aside and realize like, I'm going to put out all these different options and you can decide what is best for your show, basically.
That takes a lot of talent to do like 4 different takes that are all good but completely different from each other.
And I mean, that sounds often how they talk about like Dan Castellaneta too, but I think it's a little bit different when like Dan, and I'm not trying to say one's better than the other, but just with like Dan specifically, when we're talking about him, we're almost always talking in reference to him doing Homer. And that's a character that arguably he's had more time than any other voice actor in the history of voice acting to really get to know and to familiarize himself with and to almost like become him. Versus this is, coming in for a guest spot, just kind of reading as a character, which will go on to be a character. Gloria does come back as Snake's on and off again girlfriend, but up until this point, this was her first appearance, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus was the one that really gave her life to begin with.
Yeah, I do have character questions about this woman, but we'll get to that in the script when we get there, I guess.
That makes sense. There is another guest star on this episode, another big name, actually, that we are both a fan of, but we'll wait till we get to his scene here momentarily. For now, we'll go ahead and open up with the Simpsons and spending the afternoon at Springfield's Chinatown, where it seems that everybody's having a good time, though Lisa still has concerns about how Chinatown continues to harass nearby Tibet Town. That's a very political joke about a long-going conflict amongst nations that I'm not well-versed in, but I'm going to assume I'm on Lisa's side.
I guess the lazy way out, watch 7 Years in Tibet.
There you go. I
don't even know if that's anything to do with that.
No, dude, it's the exact same thing. I like this joke here. We get a dragon, like it's like a traditional like Chinese New Year parade, and they even say it must be Chinese New Year. And there's like the people doing like the dragon thing, but then an animal control van pops out and shoots the dragon with a dart, and they're like, these guys get these things as pets, as kids, and flush them out down the toilet when they get too large. And that's hilarious because these are obviously men in like a paper mache dragon costume. But that actually comes from the real life rumor that there are alligators in New York City's like sewer system, which does stem from the real life fact that people used to sell baby alligators as pets, like in the city, like legitimately in New York, and they legitimately did flush them down the sewers or down the toilet. But ultimately, these baby alligators met their demise at this point. They did not, like, in fact, end up in the sewers where they just, like, got angry and big for many years.
They'd have nothing to eat down there.
That's exactly what it is. There is no sustainable food source, and simply put, just going through that, like, machinery and piping and whatnot at that size is going to be a lot of, like, trauma to the body.
Except for that one that grew very, very big and ended up fighting the Ninja Turtles down there.
Well, of course, that one. I mean, that's a different thing. And also the one that turned into, Killer Croc and fought Batman. Those were the only two that survived.
Exactly. They have a beef sometimes.
The Simpsons decide they're going to go ahead and grab some Chinese food while they're in Chinatown. Of course, Bart orders the shark butt with butt sauce, which makes Marge angry until the waiter corrects Marge and says, like, that's actually one of their better items. Lisa's like, what is like the extraordinarily amazing rice dish or whatever it's called on the menu? And then he's like, disappointing. So she orders some sweet and sour rice.
And then the guy keeps trying to add meat to her meal.
What
kind of slaughtered meat would you like to put on top of that?
He's not taking the hint that she's more of a cabbage type.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is actually the other guest spot right here. It's George Takei is this server, and just another guy that they just absolutely adore, and he's been on the show a couple times at this point. Matt Selman actually spoke up on this because Matt Selman is actually neighbors with George Takei. Is it Takei or Takei? I'm blanking.
Well, you're making my head hurt now because now I can't remember.
We'll just say it both ways, back and forth until everybody hates us. So George Waititi,
the guy from Star Wars.
But Matt Selman is actually like in real life neighbors with George and just absolutely adores him and his husband. And he told a fun story about how he thought it was really cool that a lot of times on Halloween, George will actually wear his Star Trek uniform, like from the show, and pass out candy. And, just as like a nerd, that's like a really fun thing. And George, one time or around this time that this episode came out, he was actually quoted in a magazine, and it was just the most bizarre quote, and they never got context on it, but they just thought it was hilarious. So they pulled it up. The quote from George was, "The Simpsons are seditious, malicious, and all of the issues, except for delicious." That's the whole quote.
Wow. Yeah, I need some context on that one for sure.
I assume he was having like a great acid trip or something, and just like, yeah, Simpsons are issues.
But like, there's no context on like he was probably saying it sarcastically.
Oh, I'm sure he was having fun with it.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody was trying to make him sound stupid in this case. They were all laughing at just how it was like just such an absurd quote to like put out in publication, but they all thought it was great.
Pre-Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that's a fair comparison. Of course, every great Chinese food meal ends with a fortune cookie specifically, and Homer pulls his out and reads, "Geese can be troublesome." What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Fortune means geese cause problems.
Well, I knew that before I came in here. A guy outside told me that.
Every house has a bathroom.
These fortunes are terrible.
Is there a problem?
Yeah, these fortunes are terrible. They're supposed to predict stuff and ease you through times of doubt and sickness.
I actually loved they had Homer say these fortunes are terrible with the exact same tone both times. Which
right.
I thought it was going to be a bit, but they only did it those 2 times, but I really like that. I don't know why. Well, with all due respect, I suppose you could come up with better fortunes.
Oh, easy.
Well?
You will be aroused by a shampoo commercial.
That's not bad.
So the manager brings Homer to the back room where he meets the writers of the fortune cookies, which are just like rows and rows of writers on typewriters. There's one that's obviously a parody of Woody Allen. He like gets really angry and like tosses his what he's disgusted with writing into a tiny wastebasket.
It's a little tiny piece of paper with a little tiny wastebasket. What am I doing here? I should be in New York writing riddles on popsicle sticks. Then I'd be making a difference.
Oh, they ruined my best fortune. I wrote, "Let a frown be your umbrella." They change it to "smile." A frown is a much better umbrella than a smile.
This gentleman here can write better fortunes than all of you put together. Show them.
Okay, let's see. The price of stamps will climb even higher. And like the whole writing room is like, oh my god, like they're like flabbergasted with a like appreciation of how great he is at this.
That is, he's like a young me.
Please, young me was a hat compared to this guy.
Oh, a cultural joke. There's a few of those in this episode.
Yeah, it's I don't think there's anything that is on par with like last week's transphobic jokes, to be completely honest. But as we always say, I mean, there's some things that we talk about occasionally in 2001. Frankly, I don't think that last joke would be considered racist. Honestly, yeah, I think that's
the Burns will have a line later. We'll get there.
Yeah, for sure. Later, I got what you're saying, but yeah, that last one, I think we're still comfortable for the time being. I don't know if I'm wrong. Correct me, somebody on Twitter. I'm dead. I said that and I didn't mean to sound aggressive. I legitimately would like to know.
Yeah.
But the manager does end up hiring Homer on the spot. He starts just belting out fortunes as if it's like what he was born to do.
Let's see. You will invent a humorous toilet. You will find true love on Flag Day. Your store is being robbed, Apu. Are you getting all this, Lisa?
And Lisa is trying her best to help her dad by typing out what he's saying, but she's using a Chinese keyboard, and there are just like thousands of characters in the Chinese alphabet. So she's literally like, I don't know.
I thought you. It looks like, I mean, she is at least trying, I guess.
Her understanding of Chinese is far higher than I would have expected it to be. Yes.
Is it Cantonese or Mandarin?
Honestly, I didn't know that either. But Homer does want to know how his fortunes are being perceived by people. So he goes and kind of like hides out in the restaurant and watches people read their fortunes. He sees things like Lenny gets one that says he's a winner, and he's like, yeah, that's good for Lenny type of stuff. My favorite is Captain McAllister here, though. Like his fortune says, you're going to go on a short sea voyage.
It's R. It's like it knows him so well, Miles.
I think it's like, I'll enjoy that.
Yeah.
When we see Mr. Burns actually orders Chinese food and has it delivered to the power plant, this is the joke I think you're talking about right here. Because whenever he gets the food delivered, he gives the guy, does he pay him and not tip him, or just not pay him at all?
I thought he just tipped him, like shortchanged him basically when he tipped him.
Yeah, I think that he like left out the tip, and then the guy in very perfectly clear English was just like, hey man, that doesn't include the tip. And Burns does like a very stereotypical like Chinese accent, or like really inflection, and pretends that he does, and just basically he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak Chinese. It was definitely that one's pushing it.
Chinese or something like that. Yeah.
It looks like he's purchased food for himself and Smithers, and it's time for them to dig in.
Oh, General Cow, you're a bloodthirsty foe, but your chicken is delectable.
He tries to pick up his fortune cookie, but he struggles because it's too heavy.
This cookie feels heavy, as if there's some sort of paper inside. And then you hear a snap.
Nice job, sir.
That was my thumb.
So actually Smithers ends up having to open it for him.
Oh, it seems to be some sort of communique.
It's your fortune, sir.
Capital. You will find true love on Flag Day. Why, it's Flag Day today. True love at last.
Well, it is just you and me here, sir.
No time for jokes, Smithers. Come along. We're going womanizing.
And Smithers just looks so demoralized. He's like, oh, goody. We see basically Burns is at a, like, I would say like a socialite party type of thing. He's flirting with the woman that we've seen before. She's like the high society woman. I know she's in the episode when like Marge makes her own dress to get into the country club, and probably some others. But Burns has actually got some game, dude. He's throwing it down, and it seems like homegirl's interested. But when he goes to get them both a drink, he turns around to see that Uncle Pennybags, also known as the Monopoly guy, is literally taking her out in a wheelbarrow.
I thought it was like the train from the train piece from the Monopoly board or something. I don't know. Maybe I was just blind and dumb at the time.
I thought it was wheelbarrow. Maybe it was. It was something Monopoly based for sure. Either way, Burns is not going home with her.
Mm-hmm. That's all right, because they've got a bar to go to, Miles.
Well, they're walking down the street, and Burns sees a sign that says "Girls, Girls, Girls," and inside he's very surprised by his reaction to what he sees inside is hilarious.
Good heavens! It's one of those nude female fire stations.
And if nothing else, this scene gives us one of the most iconic gifs that we see used in Simpsons land, I guess, or on the internet via The Simpsons. It's the image of Mr. Smithers, like disgusted, I should say, and like trying to cover himself as two strippers are like grinding up on him, and he is just completely not digging it.
I'll always be second fiddle to some kid stuck in a tree. Let's go, Smithers.
I still think it's a fire station. It's great. Once again, they continue walking down the street, and Burns is starting to get a little frustrated as it seems like the clock is ticking.
Oh, that fortune promised me true love. This has been the worst Flag Day ever.
Well, it's about to get worse because he looks up to see that not only is he not finding love, a cop is ticketing his windshield.
That constable is ticketing my car, like Miles said.
I told you that we should have parked next to the curb. And we back up to see that they literally just stopped the car in the middle of the street and got out.
Like parked at they're not parallel in the lane, like over multiple lanes.
Yeah, just completely being a dick about it. And Burns is kind of being a dick to the cop. He goes up there very aggressively. The cop has their back to us as Burns approaches.
Now see here, Flatfoot.
And just then, the cop looks up, revealing that she's not an ordinary cop. She's an attractive lady cop.
My goodness, you're beautiful.
Oh, thanks. But I still got to give you the ticket.
Of course you do. You can lift my wiper any day. Is it still Flag Day?
Smithers looks at his watch to reveal that for 12 more seconds, it is in fact Flag Day.
Miss, would you submit to a wooing by a gentleman caller?
Oh, I'm sorry, but you're really not my type, you know? Oh, okay.
Oh, fabulous day. She said yes.
Smithers tells her he'll pick you up at 7. Wear a petticoat.
Petticoat?
Here's a place that rents them. And that brings us to the end of our first act, which comes in just shy of 6 minutes, which feels relatively balanced, I think. Maybe is slightly short, but this one, it felt like the amount of time. Like that felt like a 6-minute act.
Mm-hmm.
We come back. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and when the next one starts off, it's always funny to me how, like, the Simpsons town is like high school. When something happens, the whole town knows about it. So, like I don't remember Smithers or Burns doesn't seem like the type to go around talking about Burns meeting somebody just like the night before.
No, it's very reasonable. And they did, in fact, talk on the commentary about, like, one of the challenges they always have whenever they do these episodes that center around one of the, like, auxiliary characters in the show. It's how do they get the family involved?
Yeah.
So it makes sense that in this case, the kind of the gossip train would be, helped significantly by Homer.
Well, my thing too about the rest of this episode is I thought Homer was a fortune cookie writer now, and that's already done with. We won't see that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he probably belted off all of his good ideas, and now he's on to the next thing.
Yeah, in like a day and a half.
So you're right, though. It starts off with everybody. The Simpsons already know about Burns' date, and they're talking about it around the house. It's about time Mr. Burns found a woman. I can't stand to see a man single.
Well, some people enjoy being alone, Mom.
No, everyone should be paired up. And she actually pushes the dog and the cat together, the salt and the pepper, and even Maggie in a cactus. But Maggie doesn't take to it.
She just whaps it down.
It wasn't meant to be.
Good for you, Maggie.
So we cut to Burns and Gloria's date, and Gloria, the first thing we hear is Gloria is opening up saying, I've never dated anyone who knew Calvin Coolidge.
Well, I never dated anyone with their original hair and teeth.
You're a nice guy. You're a nice guy, Monty, but you're always laughing and tinting your fingers. I like that.
Excellent.
And you're so upbeat. You think everything is excellent.
They're at a not an amusement park. It's like a carnival. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for.
And they're actually on the Ferris wheel, which is, classic date spot if you're digging a lady and trying to find a cool place to have a conversation and, maybe a kiss or whatever. And Gloria, it seems like it's going well. And then Gloria says, I really feel safe with you. It's like going out with my brother, which any reasonable human being would be like, oh God, that's the worst thing I could be saying or hearing in this situation. But inside we get like Burns talking to himself.
Yes, it's going great.
I don't know what that means about Burns exactly, but it's telling to something.
He's been watching Game of Thrones, even though it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah. Gloria's just trying to have like small talk, asking Burns what he's into. He's not quite getting it though. So she's like, what's a fun day for a 104-year-old look like?
Oh, I enjoy all the popular youth trends like piloting motor coaches and
he's looking around
dog waste.
He's just trying to find people like the ideas because he doesn't really know what to say. So he like sees bumper cars and a guy collecting his dog's poop and says those things.
And Gloria just kind of looks like, huh?
The evening seems like it went well, and we cut to Gloria dropping off Mr. Burns at his mansion.
Oh, what shall we do tomorrow? Go grousing? Or if you'd rather stay home, you can sing while I accompany you on the clavichord.
I assume that's a real instrument that existed at some point.
Right.
Actually, Monty,
I've got some wonderful stereopticon images on the Crimean War. Crimean War.
I had a lot of fun today, but I just don't think we're right for each other. The age difference is just too much.
Oh, Balderdash. It's not important how old you are on the parchment. It's how old you feel in the humerus.
I'm sorry, Monty.
Stop that dog. Oh, that's Homer.
This is such a short sweater joke type of concept. I think I don't actually have verification that's it, but just in the background for absolutely no reason whatsoever, Homer is chasing a dog and he's screaming out, "Stop that dog! It has my gum!"
Look,
there's a lot to unpack in just those two sentences.
Like unpacking gum?
Yeah.
But that's one of my young chums now. You there?
And basically what happens is Burns tries to get Homer to like be a bro and like pretend that they're super pals so that like it makes Burns look younger by association. And after a little bit of nudging and that pie, that they're being offer of a pie, Homer's on board. He's like, "Oh yeah, Monty's a wild man." They actually high five, which knocks him to the ground. Let's see. He ran his own casino. He stole the Loch Ness Monster. He got shot by a baby, and he blotted out the sun.
Which sounds impressive to Gloria. I mean, I think,
and I like that like the world here is like it makes sense that she would know about this when she's like, "Oh my god, that was you."
Well, shall I pick you up at 8?
And somehow that works. Homer does have to nudge one more time. Come on, he's a total player. And
by nudge, you mean kick the car.
Okay, just stop kicking my door.
Well done, young man. Your youthful trendiness will come in handy throughout the courting process. Because these days you've...
And this is where Homer just suddenly has a pie for absolutely no reason. Windows. And Homer's like eating. He just says windowsill.
And then you got the old angry lady leaning out of her window screaming at Homer because he took her pie on the windowsill.
Of course, yeah. Just like like what is that? It's very like a very Hanna-Barbera move. I feel like that's like a Yogi Bear type thing.
Yes, one of those old cartoons. Oh wait, The Simpsons is now an old cartoon.
Well, I mean, they're still older cartoons though. We see Marge back at home. She basically sees Homer getting dressed to help Burns out on his date. And she's impressed that he's using new underpants. Homer, what are you up to?
Burns wants me to come along on his date to show him where hip young people go.
Well, don't look too hip. You don't want that girl falling for you.
You're right. These would stop Joan Collins herself.
And he replaces his new whitey tighties with a battered, torn, and stained pair of more yellowish white tighties. And I did think it was funny, actually. The director of this episode, which was Lance Kramer, he actually bought that cell of Homer holding up his dirty underwear. I don't blame him. That's a great cell.
That's fantastic.
We cut to Burns and Gloria at a nightclub where they seemingly are dancing the night away, though Burns has a little secret, more than one we're going to find out through this episode. He has an oxygen canister in his vest, and he keeps taking hits off of it to like stay, basically to not pass out from the wind.
Yeah, but I mean, it's doing the trick for the most part.
And apparently it's impressing Gloria, who even admits that, wow, you can really shake it.
Oh, yes, it's totally voluntary.
And again, we've kind of got this weird situation where Homer is like the third wheel on their date in this situation. So Gloria is kind of making chat with both of them, like, oh, so you guys come here all the time?
Oh, constantly, when we're not being kicked out for our rowdy youthful behavior. Eh, Palais?
Yep, no one's rowdier or more useful. More youthful than Old Man Burns.
You mean young man Burns? Ooh.
She's falling for it.
I don't understand why they didn't make it a double date. Like,
just bring Marge.
Yeah, and well, from a storytelling standpoint, I don't understand. From an animation standpoint, I understand a new location, adding another character where you have to give them dialogue would make it tougher. But I just feel like in a real world situation, Marge would come along in this.
Well, it also would ruin this incredible joke that we're about to see, because while all sitting together, Burns wants to make the moves, but he needs help. So he tells Homer quietly to put his hand on Gloria's knees. And then he makes an odd expression before he says, I said her hand and my knee. Or her knee.
My hand on her knee.
Yeah. Basically, Homer moved his hand to Burns' hand to his own knee.
No, he didn't. He goes, and I said knee.
Yeah, you're
so
right.
So Homer put Burns' hand on his penis.
Sorry, I don't know why they wouldn't put that dialogue in the script. They just like literally, it literally says this. Burns quietly tells Homer to put his hand on Gloria's knee. Homer misses the mark by a little. That's the worst cover of ever. I blame this. But despite the date going well, we actually see this is impressive. You wouldn't think this would be possible, but Burns is carrying Gloria up a set of stairs. Only it's a classic when they pan out, we can see that it's actually Homer carrying Burns, who has Gloria and like on him. But it's really Homer doing the work.
Mm-hmm. The first door on the left.
Like, what's that?
He's like, first door on the left.
Yeah. They're head to the bedroom, folks. It's about to go down, and they did have a lot of pitching of ideas from the writer's room about Homer continuing to help Mr. Burns with the next phase of what would happen in the bedroom. But that's when they came up with that pocket shot, or the rare fox, I think it was called, the needle that they pulled out. And of course, getting a little perk for Burns gave him the energy he needed to go and take care of business. And this gives Homer...
It's a fox from the 16th century that's no longer alive, and there's only a limited supply of this injectable fox aphrodisiac.
Well, it's not so limited that Homer doesn't want to bump, and we just basically see him look at the syringe, and they said that they got heavily noted that you can under no circumstances show him using that syringe. But they just have him look at it for a second, and then the next thing we know, he's running up the stairs, and from the looks of Marge's face and the terror on Bart, Lisa, and Ned's face, it seemed like it went pretty well.
Yeah, because he did just reuse a needle that a 104-year-old used.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess that would either make you either super immune or super dead. I'm not really quite sure.
But yeah, I love that where Marge is like, I hope the kids didn't hear. And you see the Bart and Lisa, oh my God. And without saying anything, but the Ned one was just funny.
Yeah, it's like, oh my. So the next day at work, we see Burns in an unusual mood. And by that, I would say it's a cheerful mood. And even Carl points out, wow, Burns looks happy today. Hey, watch me take advantage of his good move.
Ooh.
Hey, Mr. Burns, can I have a raise?
Clean out your desk. You're gone.
Well, I had a good run. I do love how happy he is. And this is actually where we're going to get into what I teased at the top of the show with the director Lance Kramer mentioned that they actually had a lot of difficulties in the animation of this episode, specifically because Mr. Burns is traditionally drawn to look very vulture-like and evil. Mm-hmm. He is typically the villain of most of our stories, and this is really one of the first times that we actually had to genuinely see him sustain happiness for a long period of the episode. There's other episodes where he might smile for a moment, But this is where he has to be generally like chipper almost for like an entire act and a half of the show. And it really made it a lot of challenges, and they had to even make some subtle tweaks to the character design in places you wouldn't expect, and like the facial features and whatnot. So if you were to compare a cell of Burns from this episode to a normal cell of Burns, you can find some inaccuracies, and they were very much done intentionally to try to change the demeanor of his face.
Yeah, he always has that little hunch in his back and everything, and but that's very interesting. You wouldn't think about that. I figured the animation would be difficult because they're doing all these random montage of backdrops with scenery and whatnot.
I mean, that probably added to the workload, but I think that's more of a like common thing. It's a lot of work, but it's not something that they have a hard time figuring out how to do. They had to actually like figure out how to do that. Which led to some more interesting information, because they went on to talk about the animation process a lot when it comes to facial features. And one of the more interesting things that came out is almost every single animator, or Simpsons animator, and I'm assuming others as well, they keep a mirror at their desk specifically so they can make faces into it whenever they're trying to like figure out how to draw a certain emotion or a certain expression. They will like basically make that face into the mirror and try to draw it so that they can get a visual of what they're trying to make happen on the ink. They also end up doing a lot of very weird stuff beyond that, and it's very, very common, especially if you're tasked with doing something just highly unusual. It's not uncommon to walk through like an animation studio, and there might be an animator out in the hallway like doing a weird walk or like, moving in an abnormal way. And taping it, and it's all just so that they can have like a visual reference as they're trying to bring these characters to life on the cartoon.
I would never think of doing any of that, and it's such an easy idea to make faces into a mirror right in front of you. Like that's
on one hand, you're like 100% right. It's like I never really thought of it until they said that, but it makes complete and total sense that they would do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good stuff in this commentary this week.
Dude, honestly, I will say this was one of the better commentaries in a while in terms of just having a lot of, it was a good mix of it was fun. They were having a good time chatting about this episode, but they also brought quite a bit of just new information that I really enjoy. So both the season 13, the season and the commentary are having a revival right now, which is nice.
It's all that Schwartzwelder insight on the commentary on this one.
Yeah, exactly. Good thing he was there to bring out all these details. We see that Burns and Gloria continue to date with the assistance of Homer. We see things like Burns is trying to do a paddle boat or a rowboat date, but really it's actually just Homer swimming the boat across.
Jack LaLanne style.
Yeah. We get a Lady in the Tramp moment with the spaghetti where they're sharing it, but we actually get this fun kind of like side animation where we can see that Burns isn't actually strong enough to suck down a strand of spaghetti himself, so there's like a straw contraption that Homer is actually the one powering this machine,
the suction,
which it's win-win because Homer gets to eat spaghetti with a straw. At the movies, we see Burns is doing the arm around the shoulder, and that's Homer actually takes advantage and gives him a little as Burns tries to like nod off. Homer gives him a little tap of that fox aphrodisiac.
And then they start making out in the movies. Ooh,
yeah, he like turns him into like a teenager. As Mr. Burns lays in Gloria's lap under a tree during a sunset, Homer fortunately noticed that Burns actually dies, so he hits him with the paddles and revives his heart. And the best part of this, in my opinion, is he's literally laying on Gloria's like they're cuddling at this point. So if he were to get shocked with those paddles, Gloria would also get shocked, but she is just like completely and blissfully unaware that he had just like flatlined and been revived for a second.
It's the slight electrical tingle of love, Miles.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's that magical thing. Yeah.
The wizard did it.
And then we see the two go to the Barney's Bowler-rama, where actually it seemed like Gloria beat Burns and Homer in bowling, right?
300 bowler. And
yeah,
I bet Burns told him to let her win.
Well, when he points out that she's beaten two strapping young bucks, I love that Gloria does an excellent.
Did you hear that? That excellent was excellent.
And in my opinion, this next part is the craziest part of the episode. I'll explain why in a minute. For now, Burns and Homer go to the restroom, or they like kind
He's
of,
like,
it's obvious.
I forget what he says to Gloria about they have to go empty the tank, but it's the way he says it. And again, it's one of those lines.
It's one of those lines that should be in this, and it's not, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, and it's too hard to remember right now.
Instead, it's very obvious that Burns is like being like he wants to go have a chat with Homer. It's like it's not like they want to go like hold it for one another. They just need to talk about something. And we immediately cut to like, you're going to ask her to marry you?
Isn't it wonderful? I'm head over heels in love.
Are you sure you want to do this so fast?
Yes, my biological clock is ticking. I could be dead again soon.
So we see Monty pops the question, but this is what's the crazy part to me is the way that he does it is he had stashed an engagement ring in a bowling ball that was just left on the ball return, then left with Homer, leaving her having no clue that that's there. And they go to the restroom with this ring just sitting in the middle of the bowling alley, which I guess if you got money like Monty, it's not that big of a concern. But I'm just like, oh my God, what if anybody like was looking for a ball and they just happened to go across that one? Because it wasn't the ball that she was using, mind you.
He's rich. He probably has like 3 backup rings just in
There's
case.
There's probably an engagement ring in every ball just in case he forgets which one. They're all the red ones at least, because he does tell her she thinks he'll like that red one more. And sure enough, when she picks it up,
he says you'll find the red one more engaging.
Engaging, so you're right. Yeah, that's a good pun. And sure enough, she finds the ring and is immediately like, "Oh my God, Monty, it's so beautiful."
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
And Gloria does, in fact, say that she will marry Monty.
Oh, spectacular. Now we must celebrate. I'll get some champagnola. This is the happiest day of my life. Is that
fancier or less fancier than champagne?
It's between champagne and champagne.
Fair.
Nothing could spoil this. Absolutely nothing.
And just then we cut to the conflict, because in the parking lot of this very Bolorama, Snake and or Jailbird, depending on what side of that debate you're on, shows
what
up.
What mailbox you're reading.
Yeah. Dum-da-dum-dum. Okay. Gun check. $sign bag. Check. Power bar. Check. All right. Let's rob this.
And then he looks up at the sign.
Okay, whatever.
I like that. Was funny. It's a huge building. You'd notice it from miles
you'd
away.
probably know on your way there when you pulled over. Yeah, but nonetheless, Snake barges in through the front door with his gun drawn, ready to take this place for all that they're worth. When he sees Gloria and is, all right, totally. Gloria?
Snake? I thought you were in prison.
I was, but I told the guard that I was going out for a pack of cigarettes. Then I totally stabbed him. You're looking good, baby. Why'd we ever break up?
You pushed me out of a moving car.
Yeah, the cops are chasing us, and I needed to lighten the load. And, protect you.
This is the part where I get confused, because when Burns met her, she was a parking ticket cop. So she's got that. I mean, it kind of makes sense when you're the cop that likes the bad boys kind of thing, but I just feel like that she would have been fired or in jail by now. So there's some confusing stuff there.
Probably would have been if she didn't get pushed out of that car.
Yeah, maybe.
But nonetheless, this turns into a whole thing. Gloria does not want to go with Snake, but Snake doesn't seem to care that she's not consenting, and he's dragging her out of the bowling alley. She's screaming, "Let go or I'll scream." That's actually Homer. Homer runs up and says, "Let go of her or I'll scream." But Snake just ends up grabbing both of them and dragging them out of the bowling alley.
Ring left behind and all.
Yeah, it kind of flies off her finger and lands on the bowling alley floor, which the commentary pointed out was the cleanest bowling alley floor you've ever seen.
And then Burns walks back in there with the champagnola. Kaloo Calais, we're in luck. They had a magnum at the shoe counter. Now.
And he sees the engagement ring in front of him.
Gloria? Her ring. Why, she's run off with Simpson.
And it seems that Monty Burns has immediately jumped to the worst possible case scenario and thinks that his bride-to-be has run off with his friend who's been helping him out along the way. That is the end of our second act, which ends at 14 minutes and 12 seconds. So again, relatively balanced. The first one was like 6 minutes. This one's like 8 minutes, and it looks like we're on par for the last one to be 7 minutes-ish. So right there in a pretty balanced 3-act situation. Which I think we find is typical of Schwartzwelder, if I remember correctly. But now I'd have to go back and look.
I think that's about right.
Yeah.
I want to point out that I believe it was in the Bolorama. In the background, there was an arcade, and the name of the game was Nuke Canada.
So they actually mentioned that in the IMDb commentary, but I thought it was a really weird one because I'll just read it how it's written, and you can make your own. It's the first sentence that I don't know that if I believe that's true or not, but there has been a long-running assumption that America and Canada will go to war one day. The film, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, was based around it, and in this episode of the Bolorama, there's an arcade game called Nuke Canada. I've never thought that it has been, believed that America and Canada are going to go to war with each other.
Canada has an army?
Right? Honestly, I don't know.
They just got the Mounties, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I legitimately don't know. Pleading ignorance on this one. But I just feel that the idea that it's just assumed that Canada and America are going to go to war with each other is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty absurd.
Yeah. But they just say it so nonchalantly in this IMDb trivia. It's like, what?
Anyway, said IMDb has to be 100% correct.
What's that?
Nobody said IMDb has to be 100% correct.
Fair. It's very far from the mark a lot of times, I feel like sometimes. To start out our third act, we get Homer, Glory, and Snake are now driving off in Burns' car, mind you, leaving him stranded at the bowling alley. Homer pulls up to his house and tries to make an exit, but Snake is like, no, you're not going there. Gloria, you'd better tell your boyfriend to be a good little hostage.
He's not my boyfriend. Mr. Burns is. Homer just comes along on our dates and carries us to the bedroom.
You're dating that old trilobite? Gross.
We're in love, Snake.
Don't say that, baby. I'm going to win you back if I have to pistol whip this guy all night.
Pistol whip?
And he goes from being frightened to being kind of like in a little fantasy where he's dipping a gun into a giant tub of what's labeled pistol whip and eating it and very, very happy about it.
Pistol whip.
Meanwhile, back at the Simpsons home, we get an update from Kent Brockman on the news. Local authorities are confident the killer bees are just curious and won't bother us if we don't bother them. On a serious note, 2 local residents have been missing for the last 20 minutes. We take you now live to Barney's Bolorama and the last man who saw them, C. Montgomery Burns.
I don't understand. She was my young fiancé, he was my sexually virile best friend, and they just drove off in my Bugatti Sexoraza. How could this ever have happened?
Well, according to our audience, Instapoll, 46 say you're too old, and 37 say she's a skink.
That's what percent of audience polled.
Yeah.
The script didn't have that in there.
You know what's funny is these stupid things always have percentage signs on every single line. You've never seen this, Rich, because I always remove them before you ever
you deleted them
before. So I must have accidentally deleted them.
Okay, you win this round, script.
Snake takes his hostages to a remote cabin. Inside, he ties Gloria to a chair and Homer to a chair beside her. And Homer's just like...
They drive by the mailbox here, and it actually says Snake, and then in parentheses, a.k.a. Jailbird.
Oh, wow, I didn't even catch that. And that's like throwing kind of like tribute to their own in-office dispute, which they, once again, they talk about it pretty much anytime Snake's on an episode. There is still this day a debate about is it Snake or is it Jailbird?
I'm sorry. At this point, I know how you feel about it, but I feel like it's Snake at this point.
Yeah, honestly, it's just kind of gotten to the point where they're just got to be interchangeable in my mind.
I just think
can it be a first last name situation?
Snake Jailbird or Jailbird Snake?
Yeah.
What's the first name? What's the last name?
I mean, Jailbird has more of a second name ring to me.
But also the way that they say Snake all the time is kind of like how you
like a football coach
Francis. Yeah. So
either way,
here we go. Another debate.
This criminal has taken his hostages and tied them up in a cabin. I do love.
You mean this archaeologist?
What's
He's
that?
an archaeologist, Miles. That's his professional job.
Wow, who do you have to kill to get a place like this?
I think his name was Gustafsson.
Gloria is not helping the situation. Let me guess. Now you're going to start working him over with the brass knuckles. You are so predictable.
You know, it would be surprising? A foot massage.
Shut up. And he starts punching Homer.
Beating a man to a bloody pulp isn't going to impress me.
It used to. What if I beat him harder?
Wow, you so don't get it.
Has the ship sailed on my foot massage suggestion?
Punch.
Ugh. We see at the police headquarters, Chief Wiggum is trying to track Burns' car with that anti-theft system, but unfortunately all it does is just keep screaming over and over, car missing, car missing, car missing.
Oh, won't anybody save the day, Miles?
Fortunately, there was a witness. Unfortunately, that witness was Cletus.
And you said he saw them driving around Hickton.
Wiggum immediately has Cletus placed into custody, though. And
I demand a lawyer. What was the cowboy at?
The police start closing in. Somehow they go from this immediately to knowing exactly where he's at. They surround the cabin. They've got this is where Wiggum is actually being interviewed once again.
Well, first he's looking through Lou's rifle because they think Homer's the one that abducted Gloria. So that literally Lou's looking through a rifle and he's got Homer in his sights, but Homer's clearly tied to a chair.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, Lisa's there. Exactly. And the only reason she's there is to point out to the cops that if he's tied up, then he must not be the one that's done the unless he's doing like Joker's plan from the Dark Knight. More than likely, he's actually a victim in this situation. Yeah. And they probably shouldn't shoot him.
And that's when Snake starts shooting out the window, or he holds the gun out the window and threatens to turn on the sprinklers if they don't comply.
Channel 6 is on the spot. Kent Brockman's there interviewing Wiggum.
We're in minute 2 of this standoff. What's the situation, Chief?
Well, we have an officer sneaking around the house, Kent. So unless they have a television in there or can hear my loud talking... And we hear a gunshot, and immediately Eddie is coming from behind the house holding his arm.
Ow.
Wow. Well, I guess that answers that, doesn't it?
I swear I can change, Gloria. I'm taking classes in computer fraud.
That's what you said about the telemarketing scam, but you didn't stick with it.
I don't like bothering people at home.
He's a considerate criminal. I love that. So while this argument is happening, though, Homer is actually able to slide his chair right up to a burning wood stove where he's able to use the fire to burn through the ropes. Though, unfortunately, the exact problem with this plan that you're probably thinking as I describe it does, in fact, happen, and Homer catches himself on fire, too. He starts running around, hopping up and down with the burning chair still attached to him before he eventually falls, breaking the chair, and the flaming pieces separate from him so he can, not burn alive. It also burns up, however.
Everything on fire.
Yeah. It does, however, catch everything else in the place on fire. It's like the scene from Community when Troy comes in with a pizza.
Yeah. Simpsons did it.
Exactly, yeah. Both Snake and Homer make it out the front door, but as they do, the front door collapses, and unfortunately, Gloria is still inside.
And honestly, at this point, I remember the first time I saw this episode, I thought, would they randomly kill this person off just so that there's a reset kind of thing?
That's a pretty damn extreme Simpsons reset.
I know, right? But I was trying to figure out, because you just know everything's got to go back to the way it was. So is she going to sneak out the back, and it was all a ploy from the get-go, to get a real expensive ring? But no, the ring was dropped behind. I didn't know what was going to happen here, man.
It could go any way, and we've only got a couple pages of script left as we get there. Burns is the one to point out that Gloria is still inside and is pleading for help, but Wiggum explains it's too dangerous, but I got a sister you might like. She's completely hairless, like those cats.
I don't care if she's Miss Hairless America. I'm spoken for. Now step aside. I'll save Gloria myself.
You? No offense, but you're a decrepit monkey skeleton.
Perhaps, but this monkey skeleton is in love.
That's a very specific and amazing burn.
Yeah. Do you need some aloe vera for that? I don't know.
What's that?
Do you need some aloe vera for that?
Probably. Yeah.
Not because the actual fire.
Burns is burn.
Mm-hmm. While the fire is burning. Yeah.
Gotcha. Nice. There's a lot of flames happening here. Burns does roll up his sleeves. He rushes into the burning cabin to save his girlfriend, but he cannot actually get the timbers to or the boards to move. So he ends up just collapsing on the porch.
The feeble old man.
But then he sees Gloria stirring in the cabin, and he finds the resolve to push himself forward.
And this animation, like it pans back outside the house where it's looking inside the house, where you see the silhouette of somebody carrying somebody else out of the house as like the building is starting to fall apart. And I really like this animation because when you actually get the focus on who's carrying who, Mr. Burns is collapsed and Gloria is the one carrying him out.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is just pretty much this whole ending sequence is just exceptionally beautiful drawing. Like they even pointed out the way that if you look in the sky is even more of a redder hue than normal, and it's because of like the reflections of the flames from the fire.
Stepping their game up in season 13.
It's pretty impressive, honestly, just all the attention to detail and things of that nature.
Yep.
But yeah, we see that it is in fact Gloria that carries Burns to safety.
Lisa, well, the important thing is they're both safe because at first she's like, wow, Mr. Burns is a hero.
Yeah. Before they can even like catch their breath, Kent Brockman is going over to try to get an interview. I know you've been through a lot, ma'am, but we need you to stand in front of the burning house and say Channel 6 News is hot.
And then we cut to Homer and Mr. Burns talking.
Yeah, they're having a heart-to-heart, and Homer's legit impressed. Wow, Mr. Burns, how did you do that?
Never forget, Homer. There's no muscle stronger than the human heart.
What about the wiener? A guy on TV lifted a paint can with this. We see that Gloria is actually running back up to Mr. Burns as the police put Snake in the back of the car. Oh, Monty, you saved me. And to think I was once in love with that dirty lowlife with his arrogant smirk, gutter mouth, tough guy attitude, macho tattoos, hair that can't be tamed, and his prison sculpted body.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, Monty. Oh, Snake, don't ever change.
But, oh.
And this is where we see Gloria's run off with Snake. Burns is heartbroken, and the Simpsons family all try to comfort them as they're walking into the sunset together. And again, I just cannot stress enough how beautiful of a shot this is, all the way around, emotionally, physically. It's wonderful.
Don't get it, Simpson. I'm a bad boy.
Oh, I know.
I'm absolutely evil.
You're preaching to the choir, man.
What do I have to do? Grow a devil beard?
Devil beard?
You know, a little goatee thing.
You mean a Van Dyke?
No, a Van Dyke has a mustache, doesn't it?
I think it can.
Are
you talking about a soul patch?
No. Wait. Maybe. It's like as they're going over the horizon.
That's how we end our third act, timestamp of 2021, which brings us to the end of this episode. Though there is one more tag at the end of this during the credits, and that is that George Harrison, who is a former Beatle and also Simpsons guest voice, passed away shortly before this episode aired in North America. So the producers dedicated this episode to him and briefly showed a still picture of Homer and Harrison from the episode Homer's Barbershop Quartet as the at the end of the credits.
Oh.
Yeah, nice little touch on that one. But that is going to do it for Hunka Burns in Love. Richie, is there anything else that you or that book want to point out before we get out of here?
I liked this episode better than I remembered it. I remember thinking it was a decent one, but I say this time and time again, the older I get, the more I like the Burn stuff. Like, he's always been the evil guy, but like his dialogue and the stuff that he does, there's just something pleasing. And I like that you brought up the change in character, because I remember feeling like seeing newer episodes that people like Mr. Burns, there's always been something different from the earlier seasons, and it never occurred to me that it's the way he's being animated and drawn, and that's such an obvious thing now. So I want to see if going forward they keep that animation style on him now that they've created it. That'll be real interesting to see. But overall, this episode was very enjoyable, and I feel like, again, season 13 has been starting off pretty dang well.
I agree. I think we've got a nice little bounce back going from season 13. The only other thing I have to add, something I missed from the commentary, when we cut to the police station in the third act, there is an El Barto graffitied on the steps. Other than that, though, I completely agree with you, man. I like this episode a lot. It is a nice little love story. It's interesting to see a different side of Mr. Burns. I thought that the reset was appropriate in that they didn't just kill a woman like you were hoping for.
I wasn't hoping for that. I just was worried it was going to happen. I like seeing Burns.
No, I like that. You're right, though. At that point, that close to the end of the episode, you're still kind of having this, like, how are they going to resolve this? And it wasn't just like a wizard did it moment. Like, they actually took the steps to, like, really fill it out. Even the way that Gloria slowly starts to realize that she's still in love with Snake at the end, and Marge being the first one to realize what had happened before the men do. I thought that was actually really cool too, and like a very smart choice.
So Gloria was a cop to be closer to Snake. The Snake lifestyle drove her to be a cop, but she couldn't fight those feelings
anymore. But I think that's going to do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly, guys. We really appreciate you, all of you. You know why. You listen, you talk, you tell, you donate, you do all the things, and we love that. And we love hearing from you. We love being corrected when we make mistakes, even, regardless if those are like social blunders or just factual errors. And if you want to get a hold of us, you can do so.
You can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. You can follow me at TheWiz_Kid23. And most importantly, as always, you can follow our show. That's at Best Darn Diddly. That is DIDDLY. Check on those Twitter feeds to see, hopefully, Miles' upcoming production of Evil Dead the Musical.
We'll see. I've only done an audition so far, but I'll keep you posted.
You're going to get it, man.
I appreciate the confidence, dude. I really do. I'm confident that we will be back again next week. Will we be talking about our next Simpsons episode, which is the Blunder Years, or a Best Darn Everything? That is yet to be determined, but we will be back again next week.
And according to our recent Twitter poll, 46% of you say that we are too old to be doing this, and 37% of you say we're skanks.
I'm surprised the numbers are that low. And until next time, be cromulent to each other.